Our next inductee is a 7-time WNBA All-Star and a 3-time WNBA MVP. In 2004 and 2010, she led the Seattle Storm to the WNBA championships, and she is a 2-time WNBA Finals MVP. She was named a member of the WNBA's All-Decade Team in 2006 and one of the top 20 players in the league's history in 2016. Recognized by the Women's Committee as a player, please welcome from Australia, via Zoom, Lauren Jackson. Lauren, you are one of the most decorated Australian players and referred to as one of the greatest players in the world. What inspiration do you hope the young girls from Australia and worldwide can gain from you seeing your influence transcend globally?
I just hope that they see me and think what I did, which was you can do anything. Like anything really is possible, and that's the great thing about basketball. It can take you all over the world, and it gives you opportunities that you could never even dream of. And knowing that, I've made it here to the Naismith is it's so special. But anyone can do it if they've got that will and that drive.
Talk about the moment you found out you were in the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame.
Well, I was actually playing social basketball just with some friends here in Albury, and I got the call after we finished our game. So it was a great moment. I was over the moon, obviously, and I came home and just was, I couldn't sleep that night. It was really exciting, and it was a great week, really.
What is your thoughts on the 25th anniversary of the WNBA and your the importance you had in it?
Oh, look, the WNBA is so important to women's basketball. It leads the world in professionalism and obviously talent. And, it gives all of these women this amazing platform to just be incredible basketballers, but humans also. And it's, the league has come so far, and it's just such a privilege and an honor to have been able to have competed in America in the WNBA. So this 25th anniversary is it's so important. It's so special, and it's a real honor for me to be in that list of 25 athletes as well. So it's many props to the WNBA for sure.
We have a submitted question.
Both your parents played basketball for the Australian national team. What does this mean to them with this honor for you?
Oh, look, I think Mum and Dad are just over the moon. I mean, I don't think they ever imagined that I'd go this far in the sport, but, having the both of them, be basketballers before I was, it gave me the opportunity to, I guess, watch them. And from a little girl, I think I was 2, I said that I would play for Australia and I was going to be in the NBA one day, and, all of these things. And they never said, no, you can't, they were just so supportive, and I think this just means the world to them, especially my dad. He's just over the moon.
Another submitted question.
Are there any players from your playing career, whether it be at the WNBA or at any other level, that stood out to you that you emulated, that you wanted to be like when you were playing?
Look, when I was when the WNBA came to life, and there was a little bit more visibility around the athletes, that especially in 97, 98, of course, Lisa Leslie, I was watching her as a sort of 15, 16, 17-year-old, just going, wow, I want to be just like her. She was an amazing athlete, just, an incredible sports person. And so, like when I was growing up, absolutely, I wanted to be just like her. And but there were male basketballers too that I absolutely, the NBA players, because that's all we had to watch, when I was growing up. So I really, Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Jordan, they were some of my heroes, So it was, the American basketball just had such a massive impact on my career.
Another submitted question.
Lauren, can you reflect on being the number 1 pick by Seattle in the WNBA draft in 2001 and what that feeling was like?
look, I think I was just so young and so naive to it all. Before I came over for draft day, I didn't even know what a draft really was, or the importance of it, or the significance of it. So I was a little bit overwhelmed because I just flew in from Australia over to New York, and it was such a long way. And I think I was just really overwhelmed. I all of a sudden was in this completely different world. We were picked up by a limousine and taken around New York City, and it's just things that dreams are made of, And I really, like I said, I just didn't understand the significance of it until probably a little bit later. But it was super special. And yeah, looking back on it now, I really feel like I wish that I understood it more when I was in the moment. But it's so awesome to be looking back on it all now and just thinking how great it was.
Thank you very much, Lauren, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Our next inductee was one of the NBA's premier players in the 1970s, a four-time NBA All-Star and a two-time NBA champion. The former Norfolk State star was named to the NBA's All-Rookie team in 1970 and the league's All-Defensive team in 1979. Elected by the Veterans Committee, please welcome Bob Dandridge.
Hello.
Well, you and Ben Wallace joined a list of HBCU historically black college university stars to make it to the Hall of Fame. Can you talk about the impact that HBCUs have had on basketball?
It has had a tremendous impact on basketball that goes back to the days of guys like Al Attles, Sam Jones, although maybe we were only drafted maybe every 3 or 4 years, but most of the guys that came from historically black schools made teams. I look back at Ed Manning, Willis Reed, guys of that nature, Bob Love. So we have been, HBCU schools have been instrumental in playing on NBA teams, and very few guys sat on the bench. Most of the guys that came from historically black university played. I think about Willie Norwood out in Detroit. And so I'm real proud of the background that I got as far as basketball was concerned from historically black universities, but I also was proud of the intangibles that we learned there, the significance of being coachable, the ability to remain humble and do the task that was at hand, and just the HBCU experience not only prepared me for the NBA, the business-like approach to the NBA, but it has made me the individual that I am today. And at times I've ruffled a few feathers because I sort of stood on my own, but I knew that there were other things that were important to me other than just basketball, and definitely HBCU schools prepared me for life in the NBA, but life after the NBA.
Having recently celebrated the 50th anniversary of the Bucks' 1971 championship, what does it mean to you to be here now and celebrate the accomplishments from your young playing career by being inducted into the Hall of Fame?
Things work in God's time and things work in a tandem. It's taken me a few years to get here to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. It took the Milwaukee Bucks almost 50 years after that to win a championship. So I'm proud that the team that embraced me as a rookie also are here now to embrace me as a Hall of Famer. And so it just has special significance when I played with not only 4 Hall of Famers, but these guys were also in the top 50 guys that have ever played in this league. So I'm just blessed to have been in that type of company, but I'm even more proud of my accomplishments, to be able to flourish and be a significant part of their successes also, because I know without Bob Dandridge, for sure, they wouldn't have been as successful for a guy that was willing to play, I won't say a support role, because I was not a support player. It's just that my acknowledgments didn't come as fast, but patience, which is a spiritual virtue, has surely paid off doing this wait.
We have a submitted question.
Can you talk about what your relationship is with Oscar Robertson, and how important it is for you to have him as a presenter there on the stage with you tomorrow night?
You know, Oscar and I talk about every 6 or 7 weeks, and this has happened over the last 30 years. And I thought about that maybe about a month ago, and I said that the Big O is almost like the brother that I never had, and I don't know if that's too emotional or too sentimental, but he's just a special guy in my life. His family, Yvonne, his daughters. I grew into adulthood while they were kids, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention Wayne Embry, Terry Embry, and Wayne's family in the same vein as I did Oscar. So Oscar is the big brother that I never had.
Next is another submitted question.
You came into the league and you were on the all-rookie team, and then with a championship team the year after. Can you talk about that experience as being a young player with those players on that team and what it was like?
Well, the all-rookie team was very significant because I may have been about the 8th or 9th forward taken in that draft. And for me to make the all-rookie team alongside Kareem was the beginning of me knowing that I belonged in the NBA and that I could play with anybody in the NBA. There were a few exceptions that I hadn't reached the point of a John Havlicek yet, but I knew that I could reach that point. I'd always been a winner at Norfolk State University, so winning was nothing new to me, and I took winning the championship in 1971 with the Bucks sort of for granted. And I don't know if you know that back during that day, they didn't give us parades for winning the championship. You just got to thank you, see you next training camp. So I didn't know that winning a championship was so significant until I became aware that some guys play all their careers and never win a championship. So it took a couple of more years of losing in Milwaukee after Kareem left that I realized the significance of that 1971 championship team.
Next up, a question from NBA.com, Steve Ashburner.
Hi, Bob. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Maybe this is like asking you to compare which child you like better, but can you compare your championship experiences in Milwaukee with what you had in Washington?
In Milwaukee, anytime you play on the team with the Big O and Kareem, it's tough to get any type of acknowledgement. Going to Washington, Dick Marta let me know, Coach Marta let me know right away, Dandridge, so goes you and so goes this team here in Washington. And every NBA player wants to, at some point in his life, have his own team. And that's what the Bullets, encouraged me or enshrined me to be. This is your team. We're going to go as far as you will take us. And it was a special moment in my career. Again, I'm playing with two Hall of Famers, top 50 guys, Wes Unseld and Elvin Hayes. But when I went there, they had a lot of respect and expectations of me, and one issue was they couldn't find nobody in the East to handle Julius Erving. And the history was that Dandridge plays well against him. And so that was the beginning of a new chapter in my career, a chapter of leadership and a chapter of having my own team, and I'm ever grateful to the Washington franchise for entrusting me with the leadership in terms of leading them to a championship.
Sir, congratulations and thank you.
Okay, thank you. Y'all have a good evening.
Next up is someone definitely near and dear to this neck of the woods. Today is a 10-time NBA All-Star and an NBA champion with the Boston Celtics in 2008, where he was named Finals MVP. Only Hall of Famer John Havlicek has scored more points for the Celtics. His number 34 is retired by the Celtics and by his alma mater, the Kansas Jayhawks. Recognized as a player from the North American Committee, please welcome, as they call him, the captain and the truth, Paul Pierce.
It's gonna be like in a little lunchroom.
What would you have done different?
I would have wore something different.
You're at home. This is New England. You're fine. What does your time playing for the Celtics mean to you, as well as joining a long list of Hall of Famers from Boston, like Bill Walton over there?
You know, to really be a part of a major tradition. You know, when I go back to the beginning, I looked up and how pissed off I was to slip in the draft, but to end up in such a traditional franchise, even coming from Kansas, which is the same way, I couldn't ask for anything better. You know, I could have ended up in Vancouver. You know, nothing against these other franchises, though, but, you know, Boston is different, and we all know this. When you look at, when you talk about sports, iconic sports franchises, you know, Boston, you know, you talk Lakers, you talk New York Yankees, Dallas Cowboys, you know, when we just talk about across the board. I couldn't have asked for a better place to land. You know, I didn't know what to expect at the time. I didn't understand their tradition. I think just going into it, I hated them because I was a Laker fan, but, you know, once I was able to join the family and be around legends such as Bill Russell, Bob Cousy, Tommy Heinsohn on a night-in, night-out basis, it was a dream come true because me being a historian of the game, Red Auerbach, you know, just, I couldn't ask for anything better.
I always remember you holding up that MVP trophy in 2008, your celebration, winning with your big three, winning the Celtics last championship. Take us back to that moment, that time, and how special that was for you.
I mean, it was so special to me because I just remember when I grabbed the trophy, I yelled as loud as I could. And that was for all the pain and all the hard work and dedication that I put in the sport just for that one moment, man. People don't understand the sacrifices we make to be able to celebrate that one moment. And it was just like a flashback of the line drills, to waking up at 5 in the morning, to just all the hardships you go through for that one moment. And it's a special moment when you stand on top of the mountain and you hold that trophy up because you know your whole life you worked your butt off for it. And, you know, some of us are able to achieve it more than one time. Some of us never achieve it, you know, and I'm happy to be able to achieve it that one time. And, you know, the crazy part is that I hear, like, when you do it once, people like, you didn't do it again. It doesn't matter. You know, I was able to get there, and, you know, I'm happy.
First question is on Zoom.
Hey, Paul, John Corrales here from Boston Sports Journal. There was the moment there where you didn't think you were going to be a Celtic before the championship. What does it mean to you now to be going in as a Celtic, to have that moment of redemption, to get on that page with Doc, to get KG in? What does it mean to you after all of that you've gone through to be here in this moment?
You know, I'm just happy I'm able to create some history with one of the greatest sports franchises ever. Who knows? When I was going through that process of being frustrated and, wanting that opportunity, you never know if it's ever going to happen. Like, we all have that saying, like, we don't know if the grass is greener on the other side. Maybe it would have happened somewhere else, but maybe not. And I'm just happy that I was able to, ride it out through all the tough times. Because the fans in Boston really appreciate it. I don't know how it is in other franchises, but they really appreciate it. Every time I come back to the city, you go out to eat, you go out different places, it's appreciated forever. And I see that with the other great players that's been through Boston. And I appreciate the players who come before me, who laid the path. And, I'm thankful that things worked out the way they were supposed to work out. Because who knows, if I ended up somewhere, I almost ended up in Portland, and that was a bad place at the time. When I think back, a lot of people don't know that story. I'll save that for another day, but it was close to happening. But like I said, to be able to enjoy it in Boston, I couldn't have scripted it even any better, man. A LA kid, an Inglewood kid, growing up, a Laker fan, and celebrating in Boston. Who would have thought?
Next question is from one of your Globe buddies, man, Gary Washburn.
People that doubted you over the years, and starting from, as we talked about, Inglewood High School, all the way through. How did that motivate you, and what brought that ultimate confidence you've always had in yourself? I remember when you won a three-point title, you said you were going to win it. You held up the trophy. You've always called your shot, but you've always made it happen.
Well, my mother always taught me if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else is going to believe in you. And, that's pretty much the story of my career. I've always been, my brother used to always like to call me the Rodney Dangerfield, just no respect of the game. And, I just kind of like embrace that. It is what it is. And so, being the underdog that didn't have a lot of expectations, wore a chip on his shoulder. Like you said, from day one from the draft, expected to go top and win 10th. Entering the three-point contest, and guys like Curry and Chauncey Billups, and I overcame. So I'm happy with my role. It made me. It's just who I am. A guy who's gonna scratch and claw for everything, and I know at the end of the day that I earned everything I got. Nothing was ever given to me, and I love that. You have these guys who are heralded coming in, and everything's thrown to them. And I wasn't that guy, but I wouldn't have been the player I am today. I wouldn't be standing here if there was any other path. And I'll take it any day.
Next question, NBA.com, Steve Ashburner.
Hi, Paul. 99 out of 100 people, if you asked them on the street, would probably say, well, he played his whole career with Boston. And towards the end there, for some of us, it was a little like seeing Joe Montana with the Chiefs. But when you look at those last few seasons, what did it mean for you in terms of the context of finishing on your terms, finishing on your time?
Well, yeah, that's interesting you ask that, because I tell players all the time that sometimes you wake up, and like you said, I finished on my terms. I retired when I wanted to. Sometimes you wake up and the game retires you, and you don't know it. You don't get that call, that invite, and I'm just happy that I was able to do that. Yes, you said a lot of people will always remember me for a Boston Celtic, but I had some influences in all the places I've been, in Brooklyn, in Washington, and even back home, ending off with the Clippers. And so, but like I said, I'm thankful for that. There's a lot of players who don't have that opportunity, and I'm happy that I was able to end it at home in front of family and friends where it all started. Just to see them one last time in the stands. A lot of people didn't make that trip to Boston, where I grew up, and so just to be able to finish on my terms in my hometown meant a lot.
Another question in the room?
Paul, it's getting more rare for players in today's NBA to, win a title with their original team, particularly going through up and down times. I know you talked about it a little bit earlier, but how much how much pride do you take now, especially in hindsight, for sticking through in that part of your career?
Wait, can you repeat the last part?
How much pride do you take in that now, just being able to win with your original team? That it's like having drafted you and sticking it through with them.
Well, I mean, I take a lot of pride and I hang my hat on that because, we're in a different era, a different time where it's different now. Players, move around a lot. They manufacture their teams. The way we did it was a little different. People will say, oh, I played on the new era super team. But it was like, we had to get lucky. We got lucky with the draft pick. We got lucky with the trade. We got lucky with Kevin Garnett dropping his no trade clause. So all these things had to line up. Whereas today, guys, they manufacture, playing with each other, building super teams through free agency, building friendships. And I have nothing against that, and that's why I take so much pride in, being with the team I was with so long, going through the tough times, and finally being able to win a championship. And the only regret I have is not winning that second one. And so that's it.
Paul, your final question is coming from Zoom.
Well, hey, it's Dan Wakey with the Los Angeles Times. Congratulations. Sorry, I couldn't be there to celebrate this. You talked about growing up a Laker fan and then having to go kind of compete against LA and Laker fans, really for your whole career, wherever you stopped. Did you embrace that? And what were those summers like, kind of coming back to LA as a Celtic? What was it like around town? And did you enjoy any of that? Kind of, villain isn't the right word, but kind of coming back as sort of a Celtic and as a champion to Los Angeles?
To be all honest, it was tough. And I'll tell you guys why it was tough, being in LA. Being a kid from Los Angeles playing for Boston, yeah, it's a rival. But, a kid from LA to get booed, being at home, most places we went to different cities, and you had players that was from Houston or something, or Milwaukee or whatever, and they get cheered when they go to their hometown. That wasn't really a great feeling. Being a kid from the Inglewood, Los Angeles area, getting booed at home, a place where I made a name for myself. Inside, it didn't feel good. But I knew I had to embrace it, and I knew what it was. It was because of the jersey I wore. Maybe if I had to play for a different franchise, it would have been different. But it really hit me when I played in the All-Star game in LA and I got booed in LA. And I'm like, wow, I'm from here, and I'm getting booed. And so, but, that's just pretty much the story of my career. Being an underdog, not really being liked. I guess somebody has to be the villain. And if that's, what I've been labeled, and I'm able to win in a jersey that people didn't like, then so be it. I accomplished a lot of my goals. I'm satisfied. I'm happy in the day. And I worked my butt off each and every day that I wore the NBA jersey.
Sure you get cheered tomorrow, man. Thanks, Pete.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you all the 2021 inductees. Now I'd like to introduce the chairman of the... Oh, we just got to change. Somebody just showed up. Our next inductee was an 11-time NBA All-Star and a 2-time NBA champion with the Miami Heat. Former McDonald's All-American, is the Raptors' all-time leading scorer and shot blocker, and is third in points scored. Elected by the North American Committee as a player, please welcome CB4, Chris Bosh.
How's it going?
Having played in the 2008 Olympics, what are the biggest takeaways from playing on the Redeem team, and how did it help your game following the Olympics?
Well, back when I was a kid, 1992, the Dream Team was everything. I pretty much took in them, and really seeing Michael Jordan again winning it, and then playing into the summer. I thought it was just cool as a kid that you get summertime ball. And just to see them do what they did and have the shock around the world, it inspired me as a player and as a person. And that was a goal that I wanted to accomplish. So to actually take part in that, it showed me that of course you have to be realistic, but working towards that goal, putting everything into it, it could be possible. And just getting to see the greats up close, in particular Kobe, of course. He was the best player in the world at the time, and just to see his preparation and how he handled being the leader on that stage and just having a great time as a 24-year-old young man, it was great, and I think it inspired me to want to play that winning basketball to get to the top any way I could.
That's a pretty shiny ring you got there, but I didn't want to ask you about Miami just yet. Talk about Toronto. Remember how emotional it was, you coming back there after your days, but you scored a lot of points there, had a lot of great nights. How do you hope that people in the six, Toronto, remember you?
Just remembering those, it was more of a struggle, unfortunately. There were some good times, of course, the whole entire outlook, but just as a team and as an organization trying to figure out our way in the league. I always love that organization, the Tannenbaum family, for everything that they put into me, because they got behind me and said, this kid can be a franchise player. I hired Sam Mitchell as a coach, and he pushed me every day to believe in myself, to believe in my teammates, to believe in myself as a leader, and to kind of break that shell of being too quiet. I was kind of a reserved person, but they still got behind me nonetheless. And we played some spirited ball, and I knew, even back then, I knew, like, man, if people could see what I see and experience what I experience, it could be a whole different situation. It's just, it was a different league at that time, and trying to break through it was very, very, very difficult.
Question in house.
Hey, Chris. Do you ever consider what your role was like in changing the game? When you look at the bigs nowadays, they stretch the floor, they defend multiple positions. What do you think your role was, and how instrumental were you in changing the game?
I never looked at it like that too much. I always was trying to get better and really just doing what the coaches asked of me, trying to be, it sounds great, but it wasn't very fun in saying, okay, change your game again. I can constantly have to change my game all the time. But there's greatness in that. There was always a new place to learn to be a better basketball player, and I never really reached that peak, in my opinion. I saw it coming. I remember shooting 5 threes in a game for the first time, and I said, man, that was pretty easy. I've never been shy to shoot the ball. So I think, the way I look at it, I played my part in it. And it was just, I've been another player so lucky to be here and moving the game forward, and even when it morphs into something different and the young guys are having their way with it now, I just can see my part and, know that I'm the piece in one of the puzzles.
Next question in Globes, Gary Washburn.
Chris, not being able to finish the career at the time in the way you wanted, how tough was that to get over? And what is an honor like this? Does that make it a little bit easier, knowing that you're now here and your career is complete and obviously you're enshrined in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely given me closure as a player. It was very tough not being able to play. I saw myself at least playing until this age, maybe having 1 or 2 more years left in me. I think Paul was saying earlier, he went out on his own terms, and I said, oh, that's, hey, ride the wave until you can. It was tough. It was tough to get over. I identified totally with being a basketball player. That was my everyday thing, and I didn't even know how much time I was put into the game until after it was gone. So I had to deal with that. It's pretty much like a loss, because it is, and then go from that to going straight to the carpool, straight to, being there for my family. And those are the things that really helped me kind of transition because there were so many things that needed to be done. So I fell right into that, and it was great for me. And, you know, even though losing the game was tough, yeah, I think this definitely gives me closure, and it's just so amazing. I wanted to do more, and I'm still able to be with my heroes. And I didn't even get to finish what I, you know, in my mind, but I'm able to put that to rest now and just enjoy celebrating being here.
Next question on Zoom.
Hey, Chris. Heading to Miami to team up with D-Wade and LeBron was a huge decision that worked out pretty well, as we all know. Can you talk about what the city of Miami means to you?
Oh man, the city of Miami, those were great times playing ball. I mean, there were struggles as well, just like anything else, but just great times winning championships, playing at that elite level, but more so getting to know people in the community, taking part of that. Once you get to Miami, you see the spirit of it. Having so many people come to all the events, come to the games, have those generational, meeting people that have passed their tickets down, saying, you know, the multi-decade season ticket holders, meeting so many great families and just taking part in it. But more importantly, in the organization, you know, it was a great time, and unfortunately, it came to an end quicker than I anticipated. But we have friends for life there. We always come back, and it's always a good feeling every single time. So I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for those years, and I just love that we have something great to talk about anytime I come back or anytime it's mentioned.
Another Zoom question.
Hey, Chris, can you just talk about, looking back on your career, about some of the matchups you had against Kobe, LeBron, and Allen Iverson in particular?
Well, they were all tough. That's for sure. They were all tough games, especially against Kobe. I had never experienced playing against a competitor like him. Allen Iverson, he was one of the first guys that, you know, that I played in the league that you can't really believe how fast he is. There's some guys, okay, he's really big, okay, he's really good and can handle the ball. Allen Iverson, just how good he was and his skill that he had and possessed. I had never seen anything like it. And usually he wasn't the biggest dude on the court. But his heart and determination was incredible. And I mean, LeBron, the first time I saw LeBron play, it was in the summertime of 2001. He was 16. Back then, he was the best player I had ever seen. And, you know, just even me trying to be a recruit and trying to be the best player I can be. And I was pretty good where I was from, don't get me wrong, but seeing him play, he pretty much always set the tone for that class. But to watch him ascend to greatness, to actually do those things, I mean, you know, they were calling them the chosen one and stuff like that, you know. So to be able to deliver on those promises, actually be a great ball player, but more importantly, a great teammate. It's been great to call him a friend and a teammate and a co-champ.
We have one more on Zoom.
Chris, congratulations on your success in your tournament. You were part of one of the most famous calls in NBA history, called by one of Mike Breen. I know you know what I'm talking about. When you grabbed that rebound, what gave you the foresight to find Ray Allen and set it back out to LeBron James at the point, because he was wide open?
Say that again? I'm sorry.
When you made that rebound,
yeah,
and found Ray Allen backpedaling, what made you find him and not think to get it back to LeBron at the top of the key? Because the defense had collapsed on you.
Oh, well, I mean, you know, if you look at the play, it was very quick, man. You know, that would be fighting intuition, you know, and then usually you probably lose that game if I'm thinking about that. You know, it's just one of those moments you read and react as a player. And, you know, we don't want to question things that have worked, you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Thank you, Chris.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
Thank you to all of the 2021 inductees. Now I'd like to introduce the chairman of the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame, former managing director for Team USA Basketball, and the 2004 inductee. Please welcome Jerry Colangelo.
Hi, Mark.
First of all, thank you for everything you did with USA Basketball, turning that around. Congratulations.
Well, you're welcome. I appreciate that, and I enjoyed every minute of it, too. I really did.
With your strong ties and rich history with the Phoenix Suns, can you reflect on your time with Cotton Fitzsimmons and his impact on the Suns?
I met Cotton back in 1970, a long time ago, at a Final Four. I'd heard of him. I didn't know him. I knew one of his former players, McCoy McLemore, who had played for him in junior college, who went on to play in the NBA. And so through that meeting at the Final Four, about a year and a half later, I called him because I was going to step aside. I was coaching at the time myself in Phoenix and had 3 candidates for the head job, and one was Tex Winter, another one was Casey Jones, third one was Cotton Fitzsimmons. Each had an awful lot to sell in terms of they as a prospect, but I was really enamored with Cotton because he was such a effervescent, positive individual who I believed was a very flexible guy in his approach to the game, and I felt the NBA was headed in that direction, that it was a players' league. You needed someone to direct. You needed someone who could resonate with players and be adjustable. And so I hired Cotton. And his first year, we were 48-34, 4th best record in the league, and we didn't make the playoffs. Because in those days, the top 2 teams in each division made the playoffs, and we were 3rd, behind Milwaukee. Bobby Dandridge was talking about that team, and then the Bulls who had the team that was talked about earlier. So we were 3rd. We win 49 the next year, and don't make the playoffs again. Very frustrating. So I politicked to get us moved out of our division, and we were, to the Pacific, a little bit late. Cotton went on to coach in a few other places. I brought him back to Phoenix. He worked as a director of player personnel and then a coach again. He was as positive an individual as I've ever met in my life, on or off the basketball court. He was a lifer for sure. Never met anyone who didn't like him and appreciated him. And so I'm really happy for his family that Cotton is being recognized in terms of going into the Hall of Fame.
Obviously, this year's Olympics were delayed due to the pandemic. Can you share a little bit about your unique experience preparing for the Olympics and going to Tokyo?
You know, I've been telling people that my journey with USA Basketball began in 2008 when we won the Olympics in Beijing. It was a great experience. It was climbing the hill. It was Redeem. We were called the Redeem team after the debacle in Greece in 2004. I actually joined USA Basketball in 2005 when I was asked to do so. But 2008, we reached the pinnacle. We had a game plan. We saw it exercised and executed. And, you know, at the moment, the Star Spangled Banner was being played and the gold medals being draped. And it was a moment of total fulfillment. It was really unbelievable. And I've said this, you know, it's one thing to represent your city. It's another thing to represent your state. But when you're representing your country on the international stage, it's a whole different thing. So that moment was a big one. 2012 in London was totally different, as was 2016 in Rio. But in each case, we won the gold medal in the Olympics. Tokyo, we didn't know whether it was on, whether it was off. We missed it in 2020. And 2021 was an incredible experience. Literally, we lived on the 4th floor of the Tokyo Hilton. And for 2.5, almost 3 weeks, the only times we left the building was to go to practice and go to a game. And by the time that time was coming to a conclusion, the walls had totally enclosed upon us. It was an amazing feeling when we won the gold again. It was a great experience. Each one of them was different. I never would have thought that would be the case. Very happy for Coach Popovich to take over for Coach K and continue the streak. He did a terrific job. We had a great support cast in terms of our assistant coaches. And this ends my run with USA Basketball. And it's because there comes a time in everyone's life when you need to recognize it's time to step away and let someone else have an opportunity. And so I loved it. I'm glad we won, and it's great to go out as a winner.
Thank you again. Wanted to ask you to share your thoughts on this 2021 class.
Again, each class is unique, and I've been around the Hall of Fame for some time now. And when you look at you're not sure what you're going to end up with, obviously, before the voting takes place. And once the voting starts to happen and different committees are submitting names, and you start to look at it, and again, you recognize it's unique, but there's so many, as you've heard today with some of the stories and some of the personalities. You know, I can't say enough about a guy like Bob Dandridge and his history and his story. I just love the stories of the individuals on how they got here. Most of them would all say that they didn't get there on their own. Most would say there were a lot of people who helped them get to the so-called promised land. They all share a love of the game in each and every respect, regarding if you were a contributor, a coach, a player, just unique individuals. And it's time to honor people who have achieved such a high level of success. So I love the class. I don't want to separate individuals, but there's a great story with each.
Thank you very much, Jerry.
All right, thank you.
That will conclude today's press conference. Please tune in to